Kicking off at number 5, the proto-molecule, the Expanse.
Inherent to repurposing, disassembly reveals useful pathways.
Alright guys, now before we dive into the terrifying implications of the proto-molecule, first consider this a public service announcement, because for those of you that haven't seen the incredible sci-fi series The Expanse, then please go and watch all 3 seasons right now so you're up and ready for season 4. Trust me, you will not be disappointed. For those of you that don't know, the overriding conflict of the series is focused on a strange extraterrestrial molecular organism, although not a life form itself. The true terror of the proto-molecule is that no one has any idea what it is or what it even does, and when it gets in the hands of villainous humans and evil corporations, that's when things get really, really bad. As they tend to do. The proto-molecule is considered to be the technology of a highly advanced civilization launched out into space with Earth as its intended target over 2 billion years ago. It can infect other life forms on contact, spreading internally and then altering its host by repurposing specific organs to carry out new inhuman functions. Although in some senses the proto-molecule is considered to be ambivalent or even benevolent, when it is improperly harnessed by human scientists, the results are terrifying, and that's where the true fear of the proto-molecule lies. In the hands of humans, it's like giving a toddler a loaded gun, and for me that's an incredibly well written sci-fi horror concept. Yeah. Next up at number 4, the Dark ELDAR, Warhammer 40k. Now you might be thinking that there are many more horrifying alien entities in the grim darkness of the Warhammer 40k universe. You've got the ravenous swarm of the Tyranids, the undead cybernetic soul overlords of the Necron, or the crazy scourge of the Chaos Marines. But let me tell you exactly why the Dark ELDAR take the cake. They are the literal definition of cosmic evil, and it's made worse by the fact that they were once part of the most enlightened civilizations in the galaxy, their counterparts, the ELDAR Empire. The Dark ELDAR, also referred to as the Drukhari, are a race of ancient and highly advanced Fey humanoids, an offshoot of their kindred craftworld ELDAR, after succumbing to the vile whisperings of the Chaos God Slaanesh. Because of their ritualistic worship of she who thirsts, they revel in the physical and emotional pain of others, feeding off the psychic residue of suffering and slowly consuming the will of the galaxy through piracy, slavery and torture. Their insatiable lust for suffering, also known as the thirst, has led them to contort their way of life into an abomination of ELDAR culture, dedicating themselves to a non-stop war of pain and misery against all other life forms. Yeah, these are the last guys you'd ever want at a dinner party. Next up at number 3, the Weeping Angels, Doctor Who. And yeah, how did Doctor Who make statues absolutely horrifying? Stephen Moffat. That's how. There's only one rule to the Weeping Angels: don't turn your back, don't look away, and don't blink. Now, a lot of you were calling for some Doctor Who aliens in our previous video, but don't worry guys, that's why we make multiple parts to these lists. But in my eyes, although on the surface the TARDIS has seen a multitude of horrifying creations, there are only 2 that truly take the cake as horror's best, and the first are these terrifying creations of stonework, the Weeping Angels. Because like with all great alien horror creations, it's in their implication where the fear truly lies. The Weeping Angels are an incredibly powerful species of ancient quantum-locked humanoids, where any observation of them forces them to become immobile stone statues, often covering their faces in a weeping appearance. It's the ultimate defense, and they're nigh impenetrable to any form of assault. When you can't see them though, that's when they get you, eradicating their victims by quantumly dropping them into the past through touch, feeding off their energy in a different time period. The Weeping Angels are almost as old as the universe itself, and they've been lingering in the forgotten corners of the universe, feeding off their unassuming victims like stone vampires, with seemingly one prime directive: draining the energy of all sentient life. Yeah, I don't need to say much more about the Weeping Angels, and don't even get me started on their cherub children. No thank you. Swinging in, species 8472.
Species 8472 has penetrated Matrix 010, Grid 19. 8 planets destroyed.
Now, although the Borg of Star Trek took the top spot in our previous video, there is in fact one species that even the Borg fear, and they're so unfathomably alien that they don't even have a name. Just a number, species 8472. Now, although the Borg were the overriding villains of the era of Captain Jean-Luc Picard, during Star Trek Voyager, the awesome Captain Janeway delved deeper into their true intention, only to discover their one true foe. These guys, a non-humanoid species who are the sole inhabitants of a strange dimension only referred to as fluidic space. Now, although the CGI of these guys isn't exactly fear-inducing, during the time, the fact that the Borg couldn't even assimilate species 8472 was fantastic sci-fi script writing because, again, it was in their implication. The Borg consider them to be the apex of biological evolution, and their mastery of the quantum singularity led to their species' vastly superior biology and organic technology. They don't sleep, they don't eat, they communicate telepathically, a single drop of their blood can bio-assimilate another life form, they are highly intelligent beyond the realms of even the Borg's comprehension, and effortlessly seek to destroy their opponent in the most efficient means possible. Oh yeah, and not only that, but they can assume the form of any known life form, at one point even infiltrating Starfleet as a means to gather enough information to eradicate humanity. Thankfully, Janeway managed to broker a peace deal and agreed to just stay far, far away from fluidic space. No kidding. And finally, coming in at our #1 spot, the Daleks.
Or would you rather just kill me?
Maximum extermination! Exterminate!
Maximum extermination. Yeah, and you thought they couldn't get any more exterminating. But of course they can, because of course our top spot, particularly when it comes to Doctor Who, goes to the ultimate villain and the most ravenously warlike species in the known universe, the Daleks. And despite all of their calamity and often goofy whisk-like technology, the Daleks always have been one of the most terrifying fictional species in sci-fi and horror, because again, of their implication. The Daleks are the complete antithesis of everything that is good and noble in all of time and space, and they were created with one purpose: to destroy everything and everyone that wasn't a Dalek too. Despite their appearance encased inside their metal shell, the Daleks were a species of genetically engineered mutants from the DNA of a species originally hailing from the planet Skaro. They were created by their ingenious overlord Davros, who sought to bring a 1,000-year nuclear war on his planet to an end by creating the perfect race of warriors. But he created them too perfect, and their eternal thirst for war, destruction and extermination later raged all across time and space, as he himself became a puppet and a prisoner of the Daleks. Honestly guys, the reason that the Daleks have been kicking around for so long is because their very ethos is what strikes fear in the hearts of humanity. It's the perfect alien villain, in the sense that it's the one thing we all hope isn't lingering somewhere out there in the vast cosmos of the universe. A bunch of highly advanced fleshy mutants in an impenetrable metal shell that can exterminate us like flies. Yeah, if that's the case, let's hope we've got a doctor. Kicking off at number 5, the REAVERS, Firefly. And yes, the REAVERS are finally here, and rightly so, because Joss Whedon created one of the most awesome science fiction series of the 21st century, and then it got canned, and everyone was really sad. And then we got Serenity as somewhat of a consolation prize, and everyone was really sad after that too. But I'll be honest with you, the reason that I was slightly reluctant to put the REAVERS on this list is because they're not exactly alien, so to speak. They're space zombie cannibal pirates, but what the hell, they deserve to be here, so here they are. If you've ever seen Joss Whedon's 2002 series Firefly, which sadly only ran for 14 episodes, then you'll know just how impactful those 14 episodes were at detailing how truly horrific the REAVERS are. For those that live in the core worlds, REAVERS were a campfire tale and a bedtime story to scare naughty children into behaving, but for the people of the border worlds and colonies and the crew of Serenity, REAVERS are very, very real. Although this next snippet of information is kind of spoilers, it doesn't detract in any way from the horrific nature of the REAVERS. You see, the REAVERS were accidentally created as part of a social experiment gone wrong. In the outermost planet in the solar system, a colony known as Miranda, the Alliance had been testing a behavioral modification chemical known as the PAX that was administered through the air recycling systems in the colony settlement. Uh-oh, that's the first no-no, because although the PAX was designed to weed out aggression and anger in the settlers, it instead turned them into mindless zombies that eventually just gave up the will to live. In some of them though, as in 0.1% of the population, it turned them into primal, aggressive, cannibalistic savages that reveled in madness, murderous rage and sadism. Thus we have the REAVERS, the most insanely grotesque space pirates that now roam the cosmos, ravaging and pillaging their way from settlement to settlement. What really sets the REAVERS apart from the common run-of-the-mill villain though is the degree that these savages revel in pain and torment. They're the literal embodiment of the true evil that lies in the heart of humanity, and aliens aside, they're a mirror to our own selves. Swinging in at number 4, the YUUZHAN VONG, Star Wars. And unfortunately, considering the fact that these guys are only written into the Star Wars wider universe, we don't have any kind of cinematic depiction of them. But that doesn't matter because the YUUZHAN VONG are terrifying enough on paper alone. Alright, take the Klingons and the warlike Krogan from Mass Effect, jumble them up, give them a penchant for sadomasochism, and they'll still pale in comparison to how alien and messed up these guys are. In the Star Wars universe, the YUUZHAN VONG were amongst the few known alien species to originate outside of the known galaxy, and are alien in the truest sense of the word, even in a universe filled with hundreds of different species. And what's terrifying about them? Well, despite the self-mutilation and the cultural organ grafting that they practice, plus their religious zealotry and their endless war against all other life, unlike all other life forms in the galaxy, they're not able to be sensed through the Force. And yeah, Jedi and Sith alike quake in their boots at the thought of these guys. During the YUUZHAN VONG war, this warlike species pretty much brought the New Republic to its knees and were responsible for the deaths of, wait for it, nearly 365 trillion sentient beings during their invasion of the galaxy. They straight up conquered Coruscant with barely any effort, destroying countless planets along the way, wiping out entire generations in their wake. And although it's been made no longer canon, these guys killed Chewbacca. And for me, that's unforgivable. Next up at number 3, The Silence, Doctor Who. The Silence, wait, what was I talking about again? Oh yeah, these guys, these horrific, faceless, bulbous-headed, grey-skinned, black and white suit-wearing confessional priests. I mean, if we're talking technicalities, then the Silence themselves are an entire papal empire that span galaxies, and these horrific guys without mouths are merely their enforcers. But yeah, forgive the hodgepodgery because for the most part they're one and the same, and we're in the business of being terrified by fictional alien entities, so yeah, let's not get too specific. If you know anything about Doctor Who, then you know how terrifying these guys first were when they appeared in The Impossible Astronaut during Matt Smith's tenure as the Doctor. The best Doctor, if you're asking me. Conceptually speaking, there was nothing quite like the psychological response to the introduction of the Silence, and the delivery of the horror behind them was second to none. It combined two very unlikely themes, amnesia and pens. But yeah, I say that tongue-in-cheek because if you haven't yet seen the Silence on screen, don't let my terrible joke water it down. The Silence are terrifying. Originally created by the Church of the Silence, an organisation formerly known as the Papal Mainframe, the Silent were confessional priests genetically engineered by the church to allow people to confess their sins without remembering doing so, down to the design of being forgotten the moment a victim looked away from them, which, guys, is an absolutely horrific concept on its own, but that's by the by. They appear as tall humanoids around 7 feet tall with large bulbous heads and grey mouthless faces. And I'm not entirely sure which is worse, a faceless mouth or a mouthless face. Nevertheless, the Silence orchestrated their malevolent design by remaining hidden on Earth for hundreds of thousands of years since the early Stone Age. The fact that they were memory proof essentially meant that they could enact their influence without humanity ever realizing it. Yeah, the Silence guys, a lot of you guys call for them to be on this list, so here they are. And rightfully so, because they're terrifying. Wait, what was I saying again? Coming in at number 2, The Shadows, Babylon 5. What do you get when you cross a spider with a praying mantis and an ancient race that has developed an eternally evil mantra through hundreds of thousands of years of chaos and hatred? Yeah, you get the shadows. Now we'll have to preface this point and make it very clear that although it's not for everyone, and I'm certainly not the font of knowledge when it comes to this topic, but Babylon 5 is one of the most developed and intricate depictions of high science fiction on TV. Honestly, the amount of depth and cosmic intrigue in this show is staggering, and it's a testament to how well developed the shadows are, as well as the first ones and the firstborn, that really give a sense of scale to how cosmically insignificant humanity is in front of an alien race such as these guys. And put it this way, shadows are just what humanity and the younger races of the universe have called them because their real name is unknown, down to the fact that it's over 10,000 letters long and also completely unpronounceable by any other race. Yeah, science fiction, guys. The shadows originated from the planet Zardoom, a volcanic planet of nuclear waste, where these alien monstrosities developed the belief that chaos is the only path to progression. In their words, chaos is the way to strength, chaos is the engine powering life, this spread of chaos is our triumph, and the greatest joy is the ecstasy of victory. I mean, that's a terrifying enough stance to build an entire civilization around, and we haven't even spoken about how technologically advanced these guys are yet. The shadows employ an organic technology which allows them to pretty much use humanity as conduits to enact their wills as thralls in whichever way they deem fit, as seen with the tragic Morden, as well as Anna Sheridan and the old angered Justin. Yeah, in more ways than one, the shadows are one of the most advanced alien races in the whole of science fiction, and the fact that they pursued a path of chaotic destruction says quite a lot about their character. And finally, coming in at a #1 spot, the Combine, Half-Life. Because if we're talking about advanced alien races, then throughout the whole of fiction, pretty much all of them pale in comparison to the undetermined cosmic sway of the Combine. Because the Combine Empire aren't just the de facto power in the universe of Half-Life, they're also the dominant force in a multitude of parallel universes. Yeah, these guys don't just take over planets, they take over realities, and still, their actual ultimate goal is a complete and utter mystery. Well, that's until Half-Life 3 is finally released, because we all know it's going to be released, right? That's not to say that we don't have some smidgen of a design in place though, because from the events of Half-Life 2 we did learn a small sample of what the Combine Empire has set out to achieve, and that is to dominate and absorb the entire multiverse, not just the universe, and absorb it all into its interdimensional empire, which it willfully dubs the Universal Union. Why? Power, I guess. Also, if you guys haven't played any of the Half-Life series, I'd implore you to do so, but the fact of the matter is the Combine are kind of a big deal, and it'll be hard to avoid spoilers in detailing just exactly how they came to be. But put it this way, what we do know is the process that the Combine Empire employs in order to take over a planet. One of those processes is to create what is known as a suppression field around its target planet, as seen on Earth, that serves to completely inhibit human reproduction. The field prohibits the formation of certain protein chains that are vital to human embryonic development, effectively reducing the global birth rate to 0. So that means that any survivors, any form of resistance, they're the last generation to fight that fight. How utterly hopeless is that? And that is but a taste as to the extent that the Combine Empire goes to enact its will, all for the purpose of adding another planet and or reality to its pile. The most terrifying thing is that when you strip everything away, other life forms are just one big science experiment to the Combine. To them, we're just another page in a book. That's true horror. Kicking off at #5, the Goa'uld, Stargate. Although they may look like a bunch of mildly eccentric ancient Egyptian offshoots, the fact of the matter is the Goa'uld are absolutely terrifying because they're actually a bunch of parasitic snake-like worms that burrow into the neck or throat of their host, puppeteering them for the rest of their lives. Once in the body, they begin to wrap themselves around the spine, weaving around the nervous system where grotesque tendrils extend up the spinal column and then into the brain. Over nearly 3 decades of the Stargate franchise, including 4 feature-length films, the Goa'uld were pretty much an unrivaled evil, and no one could quite compete with their creepy level of parasitic violation. As Stargate explains, the snake-like Goa'uld first arose in the waters of the planet P3X888, originally as primal predators that eventually evolved to take the humanoids that cohabited the planet, the Unas, as hosts, which is an insane premise, isn't it? Imagine thinking you're the most physically superior race on the planet, only to get usurped by a bunch of terrifying spiky-toothed water worms. Yeah, nah. No thanks. Eventually they pretty much enslaved the entire race of the native Unas and then led themselves out into the stars, piloting their parasitic hosts into their conveniently placed Stargate to populate themselves across the universe as ancient Egyptian gods. Yeah, the Goa'uld are pretty gross, if not really annoying. Swinging in at number 4, the Necromorphs, Dead Space. And if you've seen our recent scariest monsters in video games list, then you'll know that these guys look pretty familiar. That's not to say that they don't deserve to be on this list too though, because it's about high time that the Necromorphs got given their rightful placement as the scariest fictional alien entities, because they're absolutely damn terrifying. The Necromorphs, the titular, horrific lifeforms that serve to be the main antagonists of the Dead Space series, are the living definition of science fiction colliding with horror and ripping out your throat before anyone in space can hear you scream. Yeah, and that's still a pretty fitting description. From a purely lore perspective, although these entities are incredibly similar to the Flood from the Halo series, the Xenomorph in some places, as well as John Carpenter's The Thing, their design is the epitome of innate, deep-seated, biological terror. Please don't let me turn into a necromorph, and if I do, I hope you've got a plasma cutter lying around to put me out my misery. These entities appear as mutated, reanimated corpses that are reshaped into horrifying new life forms by a recombinant extraterrestrial infection of whose origin is unknown, but is orchestrated by the mysterious markers, bizarre monoliths that float about the cosmos, heralding the dawn of the necromorphs, that then usher in the creation of Brethren moons and then start the whole process over again. Yeah, it's complicated. The sole purpose behind these entities are for all necromorphs to acquire more bodies to convert and spread the subsequent infection, which ultimately peaks in the creation of the necromorph moon, as well as the end of all life in that given solar system, and then they just move on to the next one. Yeah, the most terrifying thing about the necromorphs, obviously beside their terrifying appearance and propensity for ripping faces off, is the fact that their motivations are beyond human comprehension. Although they're mindless zombie aliens jellying themselves together, we're completely insignificant to them, and they may be the next step in evolution, and that's nightmare fuel. Swinging in at number 3, the Flood, Halo.
With talk, there is much talk, and I have listened through rock and metal and time.
And I don't say this lightly. Theoretically speaking, the Flood are perhaps one of the greatest fictional threats to any universe ever. So we better hope that we've got a Master Chief floating around somewhere ready to save the day. Cortana 2. Teamwork. If you've ever played any of Bungie's resounding Halo series, you'll know that the Flood, mechanically speaking, are one of the most terrifying entities of all time to play against. You'll also know that they're a species of highly virulent parasitic organisms that reproduce and grow by consuming any and every sentient life form that they can get their maws on. The thing is though, the Flood aren't terrifying in the conventional sense. They're terrifying because their sole objective is to amalgamate any sentient life form, mutating and corrupting them through disease and infestation. Of course, every mutagenic brood race has to have a puppet master, and that's the equally terrifying Grave Minds, a rare creation of the Flood that forms the ultimate intelligence of their hive mind. They are near omniscient and have complete control over all other Flood creations. A Grave Mind is literally built from the thousands upon thousands of the Flood's dead enemies, reassembled into a massive, tentacled and highly intelligent entity, accumulating in all of the memories of every soul ever consumed by the Flood. Yeah, you get the picture, right? Next up at number 2, the Reapers, Mass Effect. Oh, Mass Effect. What did they do to you? As well as being one of my favourite video game series of all time, Mass Effect also gifted us one of the most terrifying hypothetical alien notions that you could ever imagine. And it's in the cosmic insignificance of the ancient race of Reapers that this entry truly shines. Throughout the Mass Effect trilogy, we're slowly drip-fed enough information as to what the Reapers' true intentions are, but it soon becomes clear that their designs are far more existentially evil than Shepard and his crew ever expected. Be noted guys, there are spoilers coming up ahead. For 50,000 years at a time, the Reapers, a machine race of synthetic organic starships, hibernate in the lifeless area of the universe known as dark space. There they lie dormant, waiting for primitive life to evolve their civilizations far enough and head out to the stars, populating their galaxies, where they will eventually find the Citadel and the mass relay network capable of traversing the universe. Seemingly an ancient relic of technology that was left behind by a mysterious, highly advanced spacefaring species. But it turns out though that the Reapers were the original creators of this technology, and they purposely constructed it so that any intelligent life in the galaxy would eventually discover it and base their technology upon it, which it all turns out is all part of a scheme to harvest the galaxy's sentient life in a repeating cycle of purges that has continued relentlessly over countless millennia. They're the spiders, the Citadel is the web, and we're the flies. Yeah. Need I say more? And finally, coming in at our number 1 spot, the Borg Collective, Star Trek.
I am Locutus of Borg. Resistance is futile.
Oh no, Jean-Luc. What have they done to you? Because there is one terrifying alien entity remaining, and this time it's personal. For me, there is nothing more humanly horrifying lingering out in the universe than the Borg, a highly advanced civilization of cyborgs that seek to conquer all known life in the relentless goal to perfect it, seizing other life forms, their technology, vessels, planets, and even entire star systems by force, enslaving them and assimilating their collective strengths into their shared consciousness. Personally speaking, the Borg Collective strike fear in me because they are both a metaphorical and literal obliteration of the individual. They destroy all nuances of difference, creativity, and vibrancy, all in their pursuit of perfecting an assimilated galactic life form. Because of that, the Borg are an enemy to every known living race in existence, particularly humans and the crew of the Star Trek Enterprise. The Borg are believed to be over 200,000 years old, originating in Unimatrix 1 of the Delta Quadrant, where they began life as a small race of weak cybernetic life forms after merging machine to man. For any of you that haven't seen Star Trek, particularly The Next Generation, the first time you stumble upon the Borg is a horrifying, memorable moment, and the revelation of the greatest captain in the history of anything, my man Jean-Luc Picard, falling victim to the Borg Collective, is the visual representation of despair incarnate. Tea, Earl Grey. Hot man. I hate the Borg.